So Kate, tell us a little bit about the positions you were targeting and how long have you been looking for your next opportunity?
I'm applying for like mixed position, manual plus automation, software QA engineer, software test engineer. The middle of January, I'll start to do it like more actively. And in the middle or in the end of March, I got offers. It took about 2 or 2.5 months.
Yeah, see something similar. Holidays, people go on holiday, but then come back. They have plans for
Yeah,
the year. They start hiring. Things get heat up.
yeah.
So just overall, like, what's the process been like for you? How did you approach it from January on out? What's been your approach and the process for you?
I can apply every day and as more as possible. I know that now the market's not very good and there are not so many positions, but I applied about minimum 30, 25, 30 applying in the day, and I did it every day. Yeah, and I think it's the most important thing, applying every day. Yeah.
So you
Mm.
almost treat it as your full-time job to look for a
Yeah,
job.
yes, it was. I was so busy, yeah, with this process, applying, answering emails, and answering like calls. Yeah.
Yeah. So was that a goal for you? Did you set out an explicit goal? I'm going to apply for 20 jobs a day, 25.
Yes, yes, it was my goal. Yeah.
Nice. And what would you say as far as the different websites, different methods of applying? What have you found the most effective?
Yeah, I like LinkedIn. I applied mostly on LinkedIn, but also I used Indeed, Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter, but I saw this position there also was the same, only like some of them were different. Yeah, and I found on LinkedIn. Um,
Nice. Do you want to share some of your tips and tricks on LinkedIn?
I don't have any tips or tricks. Just like I heard that if you use a lot, you add a lot things to filter, it would show not a lot of position. I can recommend try not to use filters, just to search. So like you can put a title name and then just scrolling, and when you found something that you like want, you can apply. And also I tried like premium LinkedIn. It was when you try it first time, it's give you 1 month free. And when I use it, I couldn't say that like a recruiter sent me more messages, but I saw more positions than usual. Yeah.
I've seen a little bit of chatter online around people saying, don't turn what's the open to work banner on. Did you ever have your banner on with the green open to work, or did you play around with that, or any thoughts on that?
Yes, I use it, and I set it so that only like HR and recruiters could see that I open to work this frame.
Interesting. So you didn't keep it like publicly open. I've heard people.
I also tried publicly, and then I did it like only for HR and recruiters.
Very cool. Also, Kate, this is something I get like questions about quite regularly. And I always tell people like it's usually they're shy or concerned about their English, right? And I always tell people like the industry itself, most companies you're going to work with and just US in general, it's so diverse, right? You have people of all backgrounds. How has it been for you? How has it been for you? And now that you're looking back at it, now that you are moving forward with some offers that you have, what is some advice you would give yourself about navigating this as somebody who's not a native English speaker?
I can suggest to practice mock interview or just record yourself and practice answering questions, and also try, like when I started applying and I started to receive like mobile calls, I was really scared to answer. Yeah, because I didn't feel very confident in English, but I started answering, and after a few times I answered, I understood that I felt more comfortable, and I didn't scare like at my first time. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
that's
suggest practice and practice.
oh, that is very cool. So you actually recorded yourself and you would like review your view your recording?
Yeah, I tried a few times, but mostly I just repeated to myself my answering. Yeah.
Yeah, I am just super I hate watching recordings of myself. But but I think it's important to listen to yourself as well. You can delete it right after nobody's watching, right? You
Yes. Yeah.
privacy of your comfort of your own home and your own room. This is another one that I hear, whether I see it on LinkedIn or I hear people complain about. I had my interview, they didn't get back to me. Did you find your experience was companies got back to you pretty fast, regardless of what the outcome was?
No, some of them, yes, they answer in like in few days, but I remember one company or two companies, they sent answer maybe in 3 weeks or months. I received a message that they didn't choose me.
Yeah, that one is yeah, always interesting. What are some of your keys to success? Again, if you were going back to yourself in December, January, some advice. What are some advice you would give yourself?
I can advise don't give up and be positive and believe that your team will find you and you will find your team. Yeah, don't give up and do all your best to find like, a job of your dream. Yeah, applying, practice, participating in an interview. Yeah.
Yeah, about on the topic of finding a job of your dreams, how do you navigate multiple offers? How do you decide what is your some of your advice for, hey, you have multiple offers, how do you pick the right one? Like that's got to be nerve-wracking.
Um, yeah, I chose one that I really like team, and on this interview I like the atmosphere and how I feel. I at first I never feel it, but then I felt very confident, and I just was myself, and I really liked it, and I decided to choose this one, and also. I like company. Its company is so nice, and it also has a lot of achievements. It's very inspired me, and I chose this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess this the next thing is when I think about that answer, the thing that really stands out, it's not just you interviewing it's not just you being interviewed, right? You're also interviewing the company. You're asking
Yes, yes.
questions. You're trying to learn more in terms of when you're approaching an interview and deciding on an offer. I guess they're both connected, but how do you research the company that you're interviewing for?
I use Glassdoor, read reviews about like people, they wrote reviews about experience. Also, I read about companies, about the achievements, goals, missions, mission, culture. Yeah.
Those are really just some really awesome tips you shared there. That is so important because it's going to have so many people apply for a position, so many people they're going to interview for a position. To have that kind of genuine interest, that's really cool. And then in the end, it helps you to make a decision if you get the offer whether to join that team or not, because you've been doing your research, you've been interacting with the team during interviews. Related to that, what are some of the questions you like to ask in interviews? Because you've heard me say it, like I always emphasize, have questions to ask, have good questions to ask, have relevant questions to ask. What are some of your go-tos, or what are some of the tips when it comes to asking questions at the end of the interview?
Usually I ask about team, about company's culture. I don't remember. Yeah, usually about team, who works in team. Um,
Yeah, on the topic of diving a little bit into the interview and collaboration and all of those, I find like in interviews, right, you're going to I'll ask a lot of behavioral questions, right? You've heard me say it before, and you've probably heard 100 people say it. Like they recommend using the STAR method when you're answering these type of questions. Or tell me about a time where you collaborated well as a team. Did you use anything like a STAR method? Or maybe what is your process of approaching questions like that, where they're asking you for an example from your past?
yes, on behavior questions, I used STAR method,
Mhm.
and it's really cool. It's difficult to answer using this method, but it's really works. This answers in STAR method. Yeah.
Yeah. What is a question that you fielded the most during your process as far as interviews goes? What was that one question that almost everybody asked or most people asked? Is there one question?
Yes, about conflict with somebody from the team.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a classic, right? That's a classic. What are you have any tips on answering it if somebody is struggling with that question?
I suggest use some examples that you really have and use STAR method and explain this example using STAR method, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, keep practicing. Think about your approach to the question. That's a really good advice. Awesome. One of my maybe second last or maybe last question here is
Mm.
obviously something you mentioned early on, like practicing is so important, right? As can you tell me a little bit, expand on that a little bit more? Why is practicing interviewing important? And I know you're on platforms like Crushing Interview where you're practicing with other people. So tell me a little bit more about is that something that's helpful, like actually practicing, whether it's with peers, with mentors, your interviewing technique?
Yes, it's really helpful. It helped me to structure my experience and be prepared for such kind of behavior questions, and like also be more confident using English answering this, and also helps me had all my examples in my head, like not be on fly during interview. Like for example, if they ask some question and you try to remember some example, and it took some time, and yeah, it's difficult, but when you structure and you prepared, you can answer it without long pause. Yes, something like that. It's really helpful.
Awesome. So my last question is, what advice do you have for somebody who is in the job market now, whether they're at a current company, whether they're not? What advice do you have for people navigating the job market right now?
Like I said previously, don't give up, applying like every day how you can. Also practice, improve your resume, maybe watching mock interview, also practice mock interview, be positive. Also you can Google the most popular behavioral question and preparing to answer for these questions. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Kate. I know I asked a lot of questions, but really appreciate you answering. I'm sure anybody listening to you is going to get a lot of inspiration and a lot of really strong advice.
Thank you. I hope it will be helpful.